Hi, everybody. I've had some fans asking for my opinion on a couple of things recently. One is the Travis Scott situation, and then the other is Marilyn Manson's association with Christianity recently, at his attendance and participation at Kanye West Sunday Service, and praying, or at least appearing to pray in public. And so I wanted to talk about these things. Now, I start with Travis Scott. I have to be honest with you that I've not researched this exhaustively. I've read a number of articles, and I've seen some of the video from the concert, and I've talked to my guy. He has some opinions about this. Anyway, so here's my thing, I guess. I like to provide a contrarian opinion on this show as often as possible. And so look, it seems like there were some failures on a number of people and a number of organizations' part. However, this is early. And I tend to, as you know, distrust the media, especially in cases where things, things are sensationalized and stuff. But I realize that a number of people died. And I guess that, where I would depart from the prevailing narrative, or where I have some concern about the prevailing narrative, which seems to be gathering steam, and that is that Travis Scott is responsible for this, and that he was negligent. And, you go and look at his Instagram page, and you see all these people, wishing death to his family, but you see a lot of these people expressing a lot of anger and saying that Travis Scott, has a long history of this. And I do understand he's been arrested before for inciting the crowds to be aggressive, or to be boisterous, or whatever term you want to use. And I guess where I would want to provide some caution in this narrative is that, look, as we know, the press loves to demonize people, and people love to demonize people. And I am not saying that Travis Scott handled everything the best way that he could, and I understand that he has a history of as a performer, pushing the envelope and getting or encouraging his audience members at times to push the envelope. My question, though, would be how unusual is this for performers? Is it, I've got a number of decades on me, despite the fact that I look young, and mosh pits, and the idea of aggressive crowds at concerts, and the idea that the performers, one of the things that constitutes a good performance in a lot of people's minds is performers really like getting people revved up and getting a certain degree of excitement and energy in that crowd. And in fact, a lot of people, oh God, my hair is not good today because I slept on it. Yuck, but whatever. A lot of people, even measure the success of a performance, or like when people go to a concert or something, they'll say, oh, the energy was great. Like, he really got the crowd pumped up and stuff. And so I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not absolving Travis Scott of maybe having a problematic history where he's gone too far, and I'm not absolving him of perhaps he should have done more than he did the other night in Houston. But things are really complicated, and I just know that, and please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, because this is not an idea that I'm passionately wedded to, but it does seem like to me that aggressive mosh pits, or aggressive crowds at concerts, or performers getting crowds revved up and encouraging crowds to be really revved up, and even performers at times encouraging the crowds to go against prevailing security norms. That is not unusual, and Travis Scott did not invent those things. And so, I get skeptical of narratives, of media narratives, and of popular narratives when I see, first of all, that they're immediate, that there hasn't been a more extensive investigation or whatever, and that people are rushing to assemble behind an opinion. And also I get skeptical when It seems like there's a real desire to demonize people in the public eye, and it just seems like to me this, I just want to be careful of that. And I know some of you might be saying, well, Travis, Scott wasn't careful with the crowd. And so, okay, I understand. But, I don't believe that Travis Scott thought that people would die at this thing. I don't believe that it was like willful and in that sense. And I know people say, well, he has this history. Well, a lot of performers, you go back to Jim Morrison, who was, would lash out at the security, and he would actually encourage his crowd to be aggressive towards the security officers and stuff. And then you think about, or the NWA, right? Gangster rappers who are so amazing. Basically, in a lot of ways, started hip hop. I know it's oversimplification, and hip hop goes back, I know, decades before. But I'm just saying, they would, they had a real antipathy towards the cops and towards even security at times in their shows, and when they would go play at certain places and the cops would try to restrain the crowds, at times they would encourage the crowds to get ramped up or to disregard the cops, the security. And I'm just saying that, again, looking at this, and here's the thing, there's not a lot of empathy for celebrities, because a lot of people look at Travis Scott. I get it. They don't like the Kardashian thing. They see this guy who they view as kind of a punk, and he's got a lot of money, and there's a lot of anger that people feel and resentment that people feel towards someone who's successful. And and I'm not saying that's all that this is. I understand people died, and again, my opinion is still in flux here. But I'm just saying that it's a complicated thing. These concerts, there's a lot going on. I believe that Travis Scott probably thought that the security had it handled. I know that there's a story that the Houston police chief had a conversation with him before right before the performance, and said that there was a negative, a concerning energy in the crowd. Well, I understand, but also y'all got to realize that when something like this happens, there's a big attempt for people to cover their asses. And so the Houston chief of police or whatever, he was there, and he was at least partially responsible for security. And so, it's, what's he going to say other than try to find ways to exonerate himself? And so I'm just saying, you got to be skeptical of narratives. And so there was a lot going on there. There were a lot of different people and organizations that were supposed to be in charge of security. The show did finally stop. I mean, Travis Scott and his people stopped the show at 10:10. So, they didn't let it go on. And he did at times pause the show so that so ambulances could get to people and stuff. It's not like he knew that people were out there dying and he was just like screw it, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna perform. I don't care. I just really don't think that. And when you're a performer, any of you who have ever performed before, you're out. When you're on the stage, you can't see a lot of what's going on. And it's common at concerts and stuff for people to. I'm not saying what happened here was common, but it is common to have situations where people have health issues or they pass out or whatever, and medics come in. So Travis Scott, just because he could kind of see a commotion or he could see, an ambulance or whatever, that, and he did pause the show. And then he did eventually stop the show. But just because he was there, and he, don't assume that what he should have been seeing or thinking, or that just because he saw an ambulance, he knew that there was this massive dynamic that had taken over and was endangering lots of people. The people who attend these things, I realize that a number of them were young and stupid. I mean, I'm not trying, we're young and stupid at times, and I'm not blaming the crowd either, but I'm just saying people go to these things also because, and they want to get up in the front and they want to experience this dynamic. And I guess my point is that sometimes things just get out of control. And I guess my issue, and this goes beyond Travis Scott, this goes beyond this particular incident, and this is just a general comment from me about something that I'm concerned about. Life is extremely dangerous. Life is full of mishaps and things that get out of control and things that are unforeseen and all of that, and dynamics that can come out of nowhere and just take over. And and it seems like people always want to have someone to blame. And I was talking the other day on this channel about the COVID vaccination controversy, and I was saying that one of my concerns is this idea that people who are not getting vaccinated for various reasons that I think would be legitimate, that they've now become like, it's like we want to blame COVID on someone, and so we got to that they're now a source of blame. Like, why haven't we eradicated COVID, or why are people dying of COVID? Well, it's because of these selfish people who won't get vaccinated. And if you want to see my opinion on that, look at my video on it. I did a whole video. But it's like, I guess what I'm saying is, life is rough, life is dangerous, and sometimes, a lot of times, things happen, and it doesn't always mean that that it's someone's fault. Yes, there are things that could have contributed. There are mistakes that people made. And again, I understand people talk about Travis Scott as a history, and they even bring up an incident with a guy who got paralyzed. But again, these are all complex cases. And I've dug into the Marilyn Manson situation and some other things before. And it's amazing when you start digging into lawsuits, and when you start digging into situations that the media makes out to be so simple, and then you see it's complicated. And so I'm reserving judgment on the Travis Scott thing. I'm totally open to the idea that he made mistakes, and maybe he was negligent in some way, and whatever, and maybe I'll revise my opinion. But it seems like it's a sad thing that happened. It's a tragedy. But I see this I've seen this before in my students too. I told you that I've taught before, and I don't have my job anymore, but I've taught college, and I do see this trend. I've been teaching for a long time, and I do see this trend where it seems like more and more young people have this idea that nothing should ever make them uncomfortable. They shouldn't have to be exposed to anything negative in life. I'm not saying that this event, people died. I get it. It's serious and it's tragic. But also it seems to me there's less and less acceptance, the fact, and in society in general, where, we try to deny death. Heidegger called it, the denial of the society just wants to deny. And so this idea that if at a concert, at an occasional concert, things get out of control, and in a mosh pit, or in the standing room only area, I just say, sometimes that happens. Sometimes in life, things like that will happen, and they'll be tragic and awful and stuff. But does it mean that we need to just totally castigate the performer, or that he needs to be canceled, or that he's an evil person and the Kardashians are evil for being associated with him and stuff? I'm not trying to raise a straw man argument, but I'm just saying that I am reserving judgment on this, and I just want to be cautious before we pillory one guy. Then again, what do I know on this? And I'll be the first to admit I haven't investigated it like I have the Marilyn Manson situation. So, segueing into the Marilyn Manson situation, I've had a number of people ask me what I think about his association with Kanye West Sunday Service and everything. And here's what I'll say about that. In my teaching, I've taught a lot on Christianity. I was a born again Christian for many years in my youth. And then, like a lot of people, I left the faith when I was in college, and then over the years, I've had a kind of an agnostic or ambivalent view. I think in a lot of ways, Christianity is a beautiful thing. I think it's a great way for a lot of people to connect to God. I think it's likely that maybe Jesus Christ was on some kind of a mission, if nothing else, to spread truth and stuff. But yeah, no, I don't consider myself a Christian, and I definitely. I grew up in a Southern Baptist, East Texas home. I saw a lot of the excesses of Christianity, particularly fundamentalist Christianity. I saw a lot of the problems with that, and so forth, and the repressiveness, the judgmentalism, and then just the fact that there's a lot of issues with Christianity in the Bible, and a lot, it's a complicated religion, it's a complicated book. And unfortunately, there are a number of Christians, especially fundamentalists, who don't recognize that. And so when you believe that you're 100% right, and that the book that you're following is 100% the infallible word of God, and that your religion is, infallible and all that, well, yeah, you're setting yourself up for problems and to cause other people problems. So anyway, my point being that I think that, as I understand it, Manson's issue has always been against the excesses of Christianity and of modern fundamentalism, and his issues have been against the Christian right and that sort of thing. And so I have not done an extensive study of his religious beliefs or his philosophical background or anything, but that's the sense that I get from interviews that I've looked at and what I've read. And so it doesn't seem strange to me that he would have any problem participating in or being associated with a spiritually reverential event like Kanye West Sunday Services. And think what you will or say what you will about those Sunday services, but they do seem to me to be like reverential. Reverential, reverence, showing reverence to something. They seem to be reverential, and they seem to be passionate and devoted, but they don't seem to be judgmental, and they don't seem to be like anything associated with Christian fundamentalism or the quote religious right or whatever that Manson's had a problem with. So I don't really see a big change. Now, I understand at times that Manson has done things like burn Bibles on stage and stuff, but again, I've always, I and others have always seen that as a kind of a reaction to a certain incarnation of Christianity and not Christianity itself in its totality or the beautiful parts of it. And, the other thing I would say is that speaking from experience, there's something kind of adolescent about a rebelling against Christianity or rebelling against a religion to the point where you just you can't recognize the good in it, or you can't recognize the beauty in it. And I do think that that those minority of fans in the Manson community who have a problem with this recent quote turn to Christianity or whatever on Manson's part, and again exaggerating, that's how it's being reported by some. I do think that maybe there's something kind of closed-minded or small-minded about seeing that as some kind of a betrayal. I grew up in a deeply Christian fundamentalist background. I went to church 3 days a week. I was raised with a lot of beliefs that I don't like now. There was a lot of like repressiveness in my household and hypocrisy and judgmental behavior and stuff like that. So I get it. But I do think that it's a kind of but I do think that intelligence is about not just rejecting the bad stuff and the excesses of what you were raised with. Yes, it takes a lot of strength and courage and intelligence to walk away from something that you were indoctrinated with because you don't think it's right or it works for you. But also reacting against something just because you had a bad experience with it or just because it was forced on you when you were young or whatever, that can be an immature and adolescent and blinded attitude as well, or reaction as well. And just speaking from experience, you have to be careful in life that you don't you don't let the wounds of the past or the excesses of something that you dislike blind you to the good aspects. You want to keep an open mind. And so I think what I'm going to do, I have lectured in my college classes before on Christianity from a philosophical sense, and also from a spiritual, looking at some of the interesting, and I think cool spiritual truths of it, and looking at the history of Christianity and stuff. And I think that I'm going to do a video, one of my longer videos for my channel, in which I talk about my journey relative to Christianity, where I am now, and also what I see in a philosophical and spiritual sense as the value of it. And also, what I see is where it's where believers have blind spots, and I think probably, if I had to summarize it, my biggest issue with people, and it's not just Christians, but with people who are fanatical or very committed to a religion, is that they don't have humility about the lack of absolute knowledge that we can have in this lifetime. And one of the things, my mom's probably not going to watch this video, But one of the things that's always bothered me, in my own relationship to Christianity, my mom is a hardcore Christian fundamentalist Southern Baptist. She's a wonderful lady. If you met her, you'd love her, and she wants nothing but the best of me and loves me. But she absolutely believes 100% that she knows the truth, that the Bible is absolute 100% inspired word of God, and that Christianity is the correct religion, and that everybody else has missed the boat. And it's such a weird thing for her, actually, because she's in all these other ways, she's very like humble, and she's the first to admit, she'll even say sometimes, like, I'm stupid about stuff. I never watch the news, or I don't know anything about, I don't read or whatever. Like, and yet the Christianity thing, she just, and she doesn't, attack other people, but she's told me before that I'm on, that she's worried that I'm going to hell and I'm on the wrong path and everything. And I think that one of the things that does really bother me, and I think this is one of the things that Manson has always been against when it comes to Christianity, is the lack of humility there. For any human being, to quote Bill Maher, for any human being to think that they absolutely know and can much less lecture other people on God, or on the meaning of life, or on, the history of humanity, or what happened a billions of years ago, or whatever, it is preposterous. And so this is one of the things I want to talk about in an upcoming video. And I want to leave with this idea. This is a deeper idea. And this is something that I know a lot of people struggle with. For those of you out there who are religious, or even people like me who are spiritual, and I'll talk about my spiritual beliefs too in this upcoming video, because I actually have a lot of deep beliefs about God, about what I think is the meaning of life and all that. But the challenge is to have strong beliefs, or to have faith, or to believe in something that may even govern your life, and at the same time to have humility, to be able to say, I'm basing my life on this belief, and it could be even Satanism or whatever, right? But I'm basing the Church of Satan. I'm not talking about actual occult, killing people and stuff, right? But look into the Church of Satan if you want to know what I'm talking about. But my point is, I think it's important for everybody to have belief, and maybe not religious or spiritual belief, but we all have beliefs that govern our lives. We all have ethical codes, some different than others, right? But we all have ethical codes, and we all have things that we value and things that we prioritize, and we have political beliefs, and we have religious beliefs or lack thereof and stuff. And so, how to have belief, how to have passion, and how to have for things, and how to have a sense of meaning in your life and all of that. And if you're religious, how to believe wholeheartedly in a religion, and at the same time be able to say, I could be completely wrong about all this. That is the kind of the cognitive dissonance, that is the split that's interesting. And that's something that I struggle with too. But my whole point being that, I don't have a problem with Manson getting more into spirituality. I don't have a problem with him taking part in Christian ceremonies or religious ceremonies or whatever. I don't, I see that, and maybe this is an evolution. People change, they grow up. And I guess what I'm saying is maybe that, the prior incarnation of him with the burning of the Bibles and stuff, maybe that was, an earlier phase, and I don't think he's embracing all of that stuff now that he was against. I think, you just expand and you see more, you incorporate more and whatever. So I don't know. I don't have any special insight. I've never talked to Marilyn Manson, and I don't know, but that's what I think. So I hope that you have a good day. And this was a kind of a rambly video. I didn't put as much effort into it as I normally do and stuff. I'm just so busy. And so anyway, but I've got some cool stuff coming up, and I've got more structured, more well thought out videos, and maybe I'll revisit the Travis Scott thing. All right, bye-bye.